Hey friends, you're listening to Shut Down Not Shaken, a special mini-series of the At Ease for colored girls who fled corporate when six figures wasn't enough podcasts. I'm Cristin Candace, and the government may be shut down, but it doesn't mean that we have to be. So let's take a deep breath together and find our ease. Today, I am joined by Dr. Blair Presley. Blair is an assistant professor of practice at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, Tennessee, dog mom to Baldwin and Bishop, and stepmom to Naz and Nyla. I'll also say she is a fellow Hamptonian. Shout out to Hampton University, and one of my dear friends. So thank you so much, Blair, for taking the time out of your day to join me and help some folks who are going through some challenging times, but nothing that you haven't experienced yourself, right? So if you want to introduce yourself, say a couple words, you can, but I'm really glad that you're here.
I'm really glad that you asked me. Thank you. It's an honor, really, to be on the Friend Show. I think you did it. Like that describes me in a high level nutshell: dog mom, stepmom, wife, and some other things. But really, just happy to be here.
Yeah. So I asked you on because I know that you have experienced a layoff
Mhm.
before. And with everything going on in the market, there are tons of people out of work. We know at least 300,000 Black women who were working at the start of the year who are no longer working. Add on top of that, government shutdowns means that there's almost a million people who technically have jobs that are not working, and a host of contractors, which I don't even know the numbers for, who are out of work right now as well. And so I want you to share a little bit about your story, what happened when you got laid off, and how you got to where you are today. And so let's go back to that time. What was happening in your life and career
Mhm.
at the time you were laid off?
So poignant and such a full circle moment because you already know the story because you were my right hand navigating it. So at the time, I graduated in 2006, started in a sales career, spent my first 5 years at the same company in sales. After 2 years, I wanna say, in the first job at that company, we had the, financial crisis of 2008. So I saw an opportunity to pivot internally. It wasn't one of those situations where I wanted to go from one team to the other. On one hand, it may have seemed like, at best, a lateral move, but it felt like the best thing that I could do to keep a job. So I did. I requested to be transferred internally. I did and was able to stay at the company for 3 more years while I watched several other people get laid off in my old division across the region, if that makes any sense. During that time, I was also finishing my master's, so the company had paid for my MBA, but I stayed on. I'd argued for 2 more years than I felt at the time that I should have. So I finished my MBA in 2009 and was really itching for something else. I wanted to transition out of sales, transition into marketing since my degree was in marketing, but nothing seemed to open up. I applied a ton and I just wasn't getting the traction, obviously because of the times. Until the Labor Day before or the Friday before Labor Day in 2011, and I was laid off. And at that time, I was moving. You may remember I was moving from a roommate situation to cute part of Norfolk, and I was so excited, and bills were going to be higher, but this was my time. And then, boom, a layoff. I freaked out, but I remembered that I also had an interview that same day. So I had to like wipe my tears, pull it together, and then go kill it for this interview. And as God would have it, that would be the jump off point to my like next, I guess, my second career at that point. So I remember, actually, I think it was that Friday, I was laid off, did the interview, but of course, it's just the first round of interviews. You don't know how it's going to go. I met you later because we were relaying a half marathon at the time. And I am, girl, I can't believe this. And I can't, da, 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 da. And I was hot. And you said, well, what if, even in all your wisdom, even back then, we were just 20 somethings, and you said, well, what if this is like a blessing in disguise? And I wasn't trying to hear it at all. I was like lightweight pissed a little bit. Like, I think you're missing the point of how major this is for me. And I think in hindsight, I was missing the point of what could lie for me and what actually did lie for me ahead in very short order. So, we talk about that, every time there's a life pivot or a career pivot of the things that we feel are tough or we don't necessarily see the other side. But in my experience, there's often been like a blessing in it, some kind of way. Fast forward to, I don't know, maybe my third career when I served as a product management career coach and helped a ton of people navigate career switches and layoffs. I was always reminded of that moment and saw a pattern generally for people who were navigating the same thing. So, not a layoff in the same sense, not like these, but like I've seen a lot of layoffs. And I would say that a lot of people in the moment where they're laid off, they're navigating a ton of emotions. But I think to the degree that you can maintain, your peace and a positive mindset and a set of sense of determination and a plan, I've seen a lot of things turn over for people sooner than they think, myself included. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious, how did that experience shift the way that you view work and view success now? Because you've dealt with it yourself, but you talked about your work as a product coach, and you've helped others navigate that too. How did that experience shift your view of work?
In a couple of ways. I'd start with I think I presumed a sense of, and I guess that, again, this was part of my age and lack of professional maturity at the time, but I had a somewhat sense of loyalty. You know, my mom worked for Blue Cross Blue Shield for 42 years. I'm going to come back to that point actually. For 42 years, my dad worked for Northwest Airlines and then Delta for I don't know how long. So you come from this, you're raised by this generation that gets a job and stays. And then you find out that like these companies are not loyal at all. And I was watching just last night, Earthquake has a new stand up on Netflix.
Okay.
And he talked about because he's from the DC area
Hmm.
as am I, and he talked about how federal workers, always have this sense of security that is gone.
Yeah.
And it's very similar to, what I learned at that space of, you know, there's no loyalty. So why not keep your career at center? Um, I'm gonna go back really, I'm gonna answer your question. I'm gonna go back to my mom's story for a second too. I remember being laid off the beginning of September. My mom was laid off from Blue Cross, I don't know, in the late 90s, maybe. Let me kill me because I don't think that's right. But she was laid off at one point and came back to Blue Cross. And then later that month, the same month that I was laid off, she
Hmm.
was too. And we handled it completely differently. Like I was distraught, as you know,
Hmm.
and you know my mom, so this story will track for you. But um, she was being laid off by someone younger than her, and they were really timid about it. And mom was like, "Come on, been here, do what you got to do. I know what this is giving." And for her, that began her retirement. And I've literally never seen her happier. Right. So, um, I just think people and companies just aren't loyal sometimes in that instance. So I think it's a strong drive for us to begin things that matter to us now rather than later. That's one. The loyalty piece was a big lesson. The second thing is the importance of side hustles. You have been an inspiration for me because I'm going back to your was it Queens with multiple streams days? Like you've been a um I don't want to fangirl out too much of my friend, but I don't say visionary, but you know what I mean. You've been an inspiration in the space as it pertains to making sure that you have your ducks in a row, right? So for me, that looked like, okay, I'm going to start a new career in product, but also what else can I do just in case this falls through? So that helped me to start teaching on the side. which then led to me quitting corporate altogether and starting a business. But because I have that teaching background, it was really helpful for me to transition into academia before my doctorate degree was finished. So now that I'm
Wow.
here, even still, even I'm to the point where I feel like, okay, I don't have a ton of career goals left. Like this is where I hope to cascade. But we all see what's happening in academia. So I've made the choice to go back and explore other passions. So at this
Mhm.
point, at 40, almost 41, I am in my, I don't know, fourth or fifth space of exploring what I want to do and finding out ways that it can also be financially fruitful too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I wanna go back to something, you said about loyalty.
Hmm.
So and I mean, which we know that's the case in government, right? People think or used to think, like, you get your good government job and you sit there and you get this good retirement and you're good. And, obviously, that's not possible. I mean, it may still be possible in some cases, but that sense, of that solid foundation has definitely been shaken at this point. Um, Personally, that was never my desire. I thought in being young and dumb, right? I thought you got in the government and you did 20 years like it was the military. Like, all I gotta do is 20 years and then get out and I can have, like, a retirement. Like, oh, I can do that. But over time, you get comfortable. Whether I framed it as loyalty or not, there was a comfort in having a government job, having that check every 2 weeks, and something else that you said, that you stayed in the position longer than you should have. Like, you knew that you should have left.
Hmm.
And I think about the number of times that I have, like, almost been out the door. I remember being a GS-11 and being like, "I'm moving back to Cleveland and opening up a dance studio," right? And someone is like, "Nah, girl, just go get that 12. Go get that GS-12, and then you can quit." And then the 12, then the 13, then it's like you just you get caught up in the money and the career. And I'll never forget this, and she will never let me forget this. Nicole, my friend, reached out to me last year about a job in
Hmm.
the private sector.
Hmm.
And she was like, "This would be perfect for you. I really think you should apply." And I was like, "Nah, girl, I'm too close to my 20 years." you know, like, I'm gonna get to this 20 years. And so with everything that's happening, I'm like, girl, you knew that you were not supposed to be sitting here for any longer than you have. And so I think you're right in that we get these things happen sometimes because we were unwilling to move ourselves.
Hmm. Very true.
Yeah.
But I had to shed that though. I mean, it took me, all right, I landed the job. I went from sales into product management. And it took me at least 5 years, maybe around 4 or 5 years before I had to let it go, maybe a little. Maybe I'm still holding on to it. That's a whole nother TED Talk. But those first few years was like, "Oh, okay, I'm an associate product manager now, but if I had left when I should have, when I got my degree, I'd already be a product manager by now. Or I'm a product manager by now. If I'd left at this point, I'd already be a senior." But what I'm realizing and learning to accept too, I don't know if this is like conflicting advice, but is to just stop second guessing myself. Like whatever decision I made for myself at the time was the best one. And I won't hang that over my head for the rest of my career because, I haven't missed a meal. Like um things panned out the way that they were supposed to pan out. And I feel evidenced by that just in my personal career, right? Because at first role I was an associate, my second role was an associate, but the third was senior. So things aren't always linear, and the way that you think that they should go doesn't always pan out that way. So I had to let that, oh, I should have left in 2009. Like, okay, but girl, you tried. You really did. You put forth your best effort and it didn't pan out for you. Trust that the way that it panned out was the way it was supposed to.
Absolutely. And I think that's the challenging part is the trust requires you to be present,
Hmm.
right? And oftentimes we're looking back at, like, oh, what we shoulda, coulda, woulda, or trying tell the future, or guess, or,
Yeah.
being in fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
So that trust, really requires us to be present in like what's happening now. And I think that's something that I was texting with my staff this morning because some of them are scared. And I think, those emotions are normal. But my response was, have you missed a check yet? Literally nothing has happened yet. In
Right.
this moment, you are fine. You got paid your last check, and your next check isn't it's Monday. Like it's not supposed to be here yet. So just reminding them like in this moment everything is fine. It's in that trust. Trusting in yourself, trusting in your ability to take that next best step.
Mhm. That and, the reality is we've learned so many skills regardless of the sector that you're in that can be such that you can be resourceful, right? Like, sometimes we look at ourselves through title, and this is a title that I do, but I've learned to look at myself in that, like, when I need it, like, "Okay, what problem can I actually solve, and for whom? And who's experiencing that problem?" And that helps me to pivot when I need to, because if I just stayed and I'm a product manager, I am a product that's what I do. It's like, "Okay, well, what if no one's hiring product managers right now? What are you gonna do? How can
Yeah.
you take that same framework and apply it elsewhere?" And I say that in I guess with the tone, with the intent to be, I don't know, just share what has helped me or what is helping me to think through things differently, but also not to ignore the fact that stuff is really hard right now. Like at the same time, things are hard. That said, the thing that I have to remind myself, and you know this, is that I can do hard things. It doesn't feel like it. Sometimes I want to cry, but like I can really do hard things. So what is it that I can do in this moment that serves me, serves my family, serves my friends, serves my community, such that we can all make it out of this thing a little bit better than how we started.
What would you say to another Black woman who's just been laid off and is wondering what now?
That breathe first, breathe like intentionally. I think sometimes I scramble and just, okay, what is it that I got to do? Like, let's go to the next thing. And miss some of the easy, not easy cues, but like the things that are right in front of us because we're too busy moving, because we don't think that we have the time to do anything else but move. But there's power in our breath. And I know that sounds so coachy,
It's true though.
but it is so true and something that I wish I would have known then. Because I went, when it was my time, I went full on into panic mode. I went full on into, I'm about to be homeless. How is this going to work? And I really needed to take a beat. I also needed to take a moment to like just write some things down. Like, what are all my options before just hopping into the next thing? That's what comes to mind. I think everybody's situation is so different, right? Everyone's scenario
Yeah.
is so different, whether you have kids or you're single or like all that changes it.
Yeah, but I think what you're saying is valid because the piece around just taking a breath, being still for a moment, the difference between fear and excitement is a breath. It's literally the same emotion. So I think about, and you said it with your mom about how she responded differently from like when she was younger and had been laid off to when she was older. She's like, all right, I'm out of here. I'm retiring. Just get it out, girl. Right. And I could see the same thing in myself. I have this brilliant girl on my team. So smart, young, just bought her first house a couple years ago.
Mm.
And I can see it on her, right? I can see the fear. Her colleagues can see it. They're like, is she okay? And what I really see is myself during that recession, right? During that recession when like, okay, I have a master's now. I got a top secret security clearance. Where's my job? And now I'm like, okay. Like whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And um, I'm breathing, I have a couple of group chats with people who are friends, but who are feds. And, some of them are going back and forth about the jobs that they're applying for. And they're like, what are you doing, Chris? And I'm like, over here recording this podcast, you know? I'm like, and it's okay. Will I apply for something? Maybe, but there is value in taking a moment.
Mhm.
And you said writing it down, whether it's making a list or journaling or whatever that is. Um,
Yeah, it's like
being
empty
able
pocket, like writing down, brain dumping all the things, right? Like maybe it's an emotion, maybe it's an opportunity, maybe it's something you forgot. But if you panic and move into the next thing without doing that, sometimes, at least in my experience, I found that I've already taken 2, 3 steps in the wrong direction rather than just taking a beat. I also think, and you mentioned it, you talked about your group chat. Community is so important. I was having a conversation with a friend the other day, maybe a week or so ago, about um, make it like for at this stage in my life, it's really important that the people in my life I know are 10 toes, right? Like if that means that that community looks a little bit smaller than it did 5 or 6 or 10 years ago, but I know the intent and can trust everyone in that community, that is a good thing, right? Because I think that this is a time where we're going to have to lean on our community a lot more than we ever have. And we need to know that we're leaning on like solid people. So for me, I struggle with asking for help. And I know that it's not just me. I know that that's very common among our community. So as we're taking a beat, don't feel like you're navigating this alone because you're literally not. And you likely have someone in your community or extended community who can be a lifeline, who can do the thing that you think is no, surely no one will do that. Surely I'm gonna have to navigate this by myself. And the reality is I haven't. And you won't, many of
Yeah.
us won't either.
Yeah. Wow. So, well, thank you, Blair. Thank you, Blair. I really appreciate you taking time to share with me and share with us. I'm hoping that somebody will hear about what you've experienced, what you've witnessed with others, and feel a little bit inspired. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we go?
No, I want to celebrate you. I'm so glad that you're doing this. You know, this is necessary work. And I pray that this is the content, the exposure, whatever you share in your podcast is a blessing to somebody who needs it at this day. I think that we'll all navigate this a lot stronger than, we entered. Sometimes these things happen and we feel like this is going to be the demise of whatever, fill in the blank. But I honestly think that we keep emerging a lot stronger. So I was telling this to a friend the other day of like, I don't want to say thank you because I'm not exactly like grateful for the unnecessary and the undue turmoil that's happening right now, but you have no idea what you're about to create. No idea. And
Mm.
I'm at minimum grateful for that. So kudos to you for doing the work in the midst of the times that we're in.
Thank you. And that is some perspective. That is some perspective. And I will definitely hold on to that in the coming days, weeks, months. Who knows how long this is going to last. But thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for holding space with us today. My hope is that you feel a little better about your situation, where you are, and know that you're not alone. That you're able to see joy, that you're able to see possibility in your future. My request is that you take care of yourself, take care of each other, and if the government is still shut down, I will see you tomorrow. If you're enjoying the series, I encourage you to share with a friend, leave a like or 5-star review, and subscribe.